Warning: Title 17 U.S. Code 512F provides penalties for the deliberate misrepresentation of copyright infringement. The owners and authors of this video, the common denominator, and the Paramystic Broadcast Channel are a nonprofit 501c3 exempt organization and believes in good faith that it constitutes educational fair use, as per Title 17 U.S.C. 107. Persons, agencies, attorneys, and/or social media algorithms filing a false or frivolous Digital Millennium Copyright Act complaint may be subject to civil liability. Warning: the following content may contain elements that are not suitable for some audiences. Accordingly, viewer discretion is advised.
Happy hump day, everyone. Much better spirits. I've had about a ton of weight taken off of my chest and off my back, off my heart and off my mind. I'll get to that a little bit later. But as always, I pledge my allegiance to the Constitution of the United States of America and to the republic for which the flag stands, one nation under Almighty God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I've had several politicians who have come on this program, and other Americans, of course, who have listened to that. And they actually not only endorse it, but one or two put the bug in my ear and they said, you know what? You guys may want to consider. You guys may want to consider, if they ever bring it back into school, to do a revision of it. And I think that's what we should do. We should really teach people, the younger generation, what the Pledge of Allegiance really should be standing for. Because we're at a point right now, I don't like using the word, but I'm going to use it anyway. Everyone seems to understand the word democracy. So that is part of I look at it like this. It's the republic. It's we the people. So as always, my quote, 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you did not do than by the ones you did do. Mark Twain. There's a second half to this quote, and I'm going to bring that up in a moment. A lot of us would look at this as a bucket list, things to do before we die. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things that you did not do than by the ones you did do. But I guess because I stepped out of the mold in my family, I decided to become a sailor, serving in the United States Navy. And so the rest of that quote is, so throw off the bell lines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, and discover. Again, so throw off the bow lines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sail, explore, dream, and discover. You know, basically that's what that is saying is, as parents, we should be teaching our kids to be adults. I hate hearing these teachers at the Cameron High School. They're talking about kiddos. In high school, they call these students kiddos. It's the same thing as dumbing down, which they're doing in our educational system. They're dumbing down our children. So to me, I don't even like the word kiddos. It sounds too juvenile. If I was in romper room with a bunch of little children, I'd call them kiddos. And I think you would agree. But we have got to start looking at our fractured foundation of the family as to why men aren't there, why women are doing anything and everything, drugs, selling their bodies, what have you, to get by, expecting the government to pay for everything, so on and so forth. And it's very sad because not in all cases does that have to be like that. But in most, a father figure should be in that family, no doubt. He's there to serve, he's there to protect and to provide. And mama lays down the law. I've said this before. If mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. So, with that being said, I'm going to be throwing this out here throughout this program. Prepaid legal services, a reduction in most of your traffic tickets. If you have a speeding ticket, will end up being a mechanical failure. They will do a last will and testament, and they will read at least 10 pages of contracts for free. After that, of course, they would have to charge you. But technically speaking, prepaid legal has literally saved my keister so many times, and it can save yours too. Other words, I never had points taken against my license for speeding, and my insurance company, auto insurance, was never notified, so they had an excuse to raise my rates. It's called playing the game, folks. It's called playing the system. Either you're going to play it or you're not. So we know right now that we're in a very bad state of affairs. This President Biden just 2 weeks ago backed out of the race. Now, right now, they've got this great little, and I'm not going to put her picture up there, got this little thing called a honeymoon going on with the media. And they are backing up Kamala all the way. But the thing is this, she's a dead duck in the water going into this race. She was a border czar. She didn't do anything but complicate it more. And under this administration, which she worked with, she actually allowed more people, as did Biden, into this country illegally. She wants to tout that she's a prosecuting attorney, that she's been so tough on crime, blah, 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 blah. When in reality, they have, and she has, defunded the police. They've made it more difficult for victims to have criminal justice in the court of law through the prosecuting attorneys because they are all just kissing their keisters. She knows nothing about and has no solutions for the economy, the inflation that we are undergoing. She says now today, believe it or not, she wants to frack. I don't get it. How is it that she wants to frack when just 4 years ago she said no? And on top of that, she wants to take away guns. I want to give you folks a little something to look at. Okay. I don't know what year this was, but take a look at this. Rifles, Americans killed in 1 year by dangerous weapons. With a rifle, 403. 1,591 with knife and or cutting instrument. 7,000 with a handgun. And with abortion, there's only been almost 1 million babies murdered. Now, I got to tell you something, folks. It's a personal choice of a woman to make. But for them to be using it as birth control, totally irresponsible. I don't care who you are or what you're about. If you're living in today's society, they've got things called condoms, spermicides. They've got all kinds of pills, morning after pills. They've got pills that women can take on a regular basis, so on and so forth. There are ways to, if you want to engage in sexual activities with someone that you don't even know, but for just a couple hours, you know what? Grab yourself a condom. Grab yourself, because you don't want to get an STD on top of it. Seriously, folks, you don't. So, really, what is it about the gun-free zones get people killed needlessly? Absolutely correct. When you have these areas where they say no one can carry a gun, you can't bring it into a store. Newsflash: if you have your CCW, you can take that sidearm that you have, take it into the store concealed. If they do catch you having to use it, or if you do use it for a reason, they are going to come after you because you weren't supposed to take out that bad boy that was killing people. Or so the stupidity goes on in third thoughts. But seriously speaking, an unarmed citizen is actually not a safe citizen, especially today. The criminals have more guns than technically legal citizens. But if you have a CCW and you do get busted, someone sees your gun, they can't arrest you, at least not in the state of Missouri. Why? Because your CCW makes it that's your permit to walk into a store. I'm not saying everywhere. You can't go in federal buildings. Some buildings you can. Missouri capital and the Des Moines capital of the state, both of those you can actually walk in with a sidearm. Open display. They're okay with that because they know you've got it and they know to be watching you, of course. But technically speaking, we are in such a disarray. You look at the shooter, for instance, this murderer, because that's what this man was. He was an assassin. He wanted to assassinate Donald Trump. The FBI is so slow to getting into his phone. They're talking about all kinds of bank accounts possibly that he has that they can't break into the encryptics of that phone. I call bullshit. they have him listed as a Republican, touting him as a Republican, and yet everything so far indicates that he was, in fact, a Democrat, that he actually supported the Democratic Party. And so when you really have to weigh things out, how he got on that roof, whose fault was it? Social Security, sorry about that. Secret Service, SS, okay? The Secret Service has full, total control of the perimeter of every event that they are requested to be utilized, in this case, to protect, in this case, a candidate for the presidency. And yet, how did they botch this up? How is it that for an hour, I had 57 minutes. Someone has now told me it's 62 minutes. How is it for 62 minutes they were told about this guy, looking for this guy, could not find this guy, and yet he got the best position possible outside of, quote, a water tower. He had the best position possible. And the Secret Service wants to say, well, it was the local cops that were supposed to have that roof. And then you've got the Secret Service Cheadle, the director that just resigned, had to resign. She turns around and says the slope was too tall. You know, that's a DEI Secret Service that we've got, folks. DEI Secret Service. And if you're gonna live by DEI, you better expect a DIE, because someone's going to die. Someone's going to get hurt. You cannot keep up this insanity. So, with Kamala running for quote unquote now, being given and passed on the torch, this is the passing of a torch. She should, not one delegate, not one primary candidate, no one voted for this woman in a Democratic Party, but all because the money is in Biden and her name, she gets to just jump into the position. On the 19th, starting the DNC convention, I am hoping to see someone stand up and say, I want to vote for whatever. I want to nominate who, whatever. I want you guys to consider this person, because that is the way a republic, that is the way democracy is supposed to, in fact, be ran. Come to the end of this program, by the way, I'm going to be getting into a little bit with Cameron, with me, and I can't wait to have you guys stick around for it. But the thing is this, when you think about this, here would be your sign. If your party is encouraging you to vote for Kamala because she's a woman, but can't define what a woman is, you might be a Democrat. That's a fact. Another one to consider here. That look you made, in this case I'm using past tense, but that look you made when Kamala says she's ready to take Joe's place. First off, Joe Biden has not been our president whatsoever for the past, his whole term. The Pyramystic says it's going to be the same agenda, same stupid shit. She's been running the show for 2 years. He's the poster boy, not the puppet master. That's true. In fact, if anything, there are people in the White House that are puppet masters. He is the puppet, and she is just going to be the new puppet in charge. Folks, I cannot stress this out enough. Got into a little bit of a squabble. A gal kept on talking about me, my camp, my camp, my camp. And I kept coming back to her saying, I don't belong to no camp. I'm going to vote with my head, common sense, what I know. And I know one thing. If you are voting as a Democrat, you are a socialist, Marxist, communist person. I don't care what anyone says. You're all about big government taking care of you, cradle to grave. Can't have this anymore, folks. We cannot have this. Something I was disappointed in on Fox News, they put this up, and I'm just going to run away from it for a moment, because it's big government that gets all these fake businesses. So here you go. The do's and don'ts when getting scammed. Don't send money or legal documents to anyone you don't know. Duh. Initiate the selling process yourself if you're wanting to get involved into a business. Don't engage in email, text, or phone calls with anyone that's unknown. Again, duh. And don't start a business relationship by phone, internet that you don't initiate. And finally, the one that was the biggest disappointment, file a complaint with the FBI immediately. I believe that is called ic3.gov, ic3.gov. And you can also reach out to the Federal Trade Commission and let them know what's going on. And if something's happening with your bank account, don't think twice. Go to your bank and say, is this real or is this not? Because, folks, we are living in some very funky times. Now I'm going to step back for a moment. I think I've about said everything I want to say about Kamala Harris. She is the Kamala maniac, are these people. Now, if you listen to the news 2 days ago, 2 weeks ago, Donald Trump and all of us were like the German Nazis taking over the country. And he was referred to as Hitler. As of about 2-3 days ago, all lock and step, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, NBC, MSNBC, you name it, all of them. Now they're calling us weird. I'll tell you what, I'll take that one. I'm about as strange as they come. We all are in our own way. That's what makes us unique. But really what makes us especially unique sometimes is in our passing, when you learn about someone and you learn about their heart and they've left behind a legacy. I opened up with a quote from Mark Twain. I put into 2 parts because I couldn't fit it all on one script. And this is what I found out about Mark Twain, which, by the way, my son, God bless him, told me that he listens to Dave Ramsey. If you don't listen to Dave Ramsey on the radio about finances, you probably should. He's a good guy to consider going to. I'm looking now at the comments. Okay, there we go. We've got all kinds of things happening here, and I kid you not, we are going to be making hopefully some monumental steps forward. But this is what I found out about Mark Twain. And again, my son was talking to me about listening to Dave Ramsey. Usually they'll have a prayer and they'll have a quote. And a lot of quotes they actually quote are from Mark Twain. So, beneath the laughter, beneath the drawl, and the pen name Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens carried a heavy heart. Money slid through his fingers like river water. It seemed very ambitious scheme. Every promise of fortune turned to dust in the end. Worse than any failed business deal was the empty space where a loved one used to be. His boy Langdon, taken by the fever. Later, his beloved Olivia and their daughters too sickened, and fate seemed to have it out for him. Sometimes the grief was fists squeezing tight in his chest. Other times just a hollowness. An echo where laughter used to bounce back at him. He started to see the world different, the jokes catching his throat. They called his latter writing darker, but maybe his eyes were finally clearing. Then there were the critics, clucking their tongues over his stories. Too bold, they said, too close to the bone. He didn't carry his own scars. Like he didn't carry his own scars, know the sting of hypocrisy, the false piety that rang loud on a Sunday morning and faded quick by Monday. Still, he had to keep writing. Debts piled up, and a man with an empty belly and an empty house gets desperate. So he put on the Mark Twain mask, dished out the witticisms folks expected. But some nights it was Samuel Clemens alone with his pen, scratching at truths too bleak for the lecture halls and laughing audiences. His struggles weren't the whole of the man, but they carved channels in his soul. Those channels that where some of the deepest, truest words flowed from. They flowed from his heart and they flowed from his soul. He was a gifted man, very gifted man. I really enjoy when I have the opportunity to present something of his. One of my favorite ones I remember off the top of my head. You can tell much about a man in the home of which he builds. Very true. So it got me thinking about where we're at right now and where we've come from. That's what this is all about, where we were at, where we're at now, where we're going, but where we came from. So this is some stuff I picked up off the internet. I'm going to read it to you because I thought it was that interesting. I really feel as though you will get something out of it, and you will most likely be able to share this with others. We never once questioned my parents' income. It was never a discussion. We didn't eat a lot of fast food because it was considered a treat and not a food group. We ate homemade meals consisting of meat, potatoes, and vegetables, which were not an optional choice. No vegetables, no dessert. We grew up during a time when we mowed lawns, pulled weeds, babysat, helped neighbors with chores to be able to earn our own money. Our telephone hung on the wall or sat on a table, not in our pockets. We by no means were given everything we wanted. We went outside a lot to play, ride bikes, run with friends, play hide and seek, or went swimming. We rarely just sat inside. Bottled water was unheard of. If we had a Coke, it was a glass bottle, and we didn't break the bottle when we were finished. We saved it and cashed it back at the shops for a sweet. After school, we came home and did homework and chores before going outside or having friends over. We would ride our bikes for hours. We had to tell our parents where we were going, who we were going with, and be home when the street lights came on. You learned from your parents instead of disrespecting your parents and treating your parents as if they knew absolutely nothing. What they said was law, and you did not question it, and you had better know it. We watched what we said around our elders because we knew if we disrespected any grown-up, we would get a real telling off. It wasn't called abuse, it was called discipline. Every now and then, you might have to pick up your own switch. We held doors, carried the shopping cart, and gave up our seat for an older person on a bus without being asked. You didn't hear swear words on the radio, in the songs, or on TV. TV back then had 6 channels when I was growing up. CBS, NBC, ABC. UHF had 17, 24, and 32, if I'm not mistaken. These were the days of analog. And you had to get up to change the channel and periodically adjust the antenna or rabbit ears. Kids, we were never bored like you are today because you keep that phone right in your hand and you do nothing else. You don't walk, you don't play, you nothing. It's all in you. And you don't even look up in a dictionary, a thesaurus. You don't look up words, the meaning of words. You have a propensity for which just to say, Google, what is this? What is that? And you just expect that that's the answer. I was so taken back by this piece, not only that I wanted to share it with you, but I read comments every now and then, and one of the comments I read could not have been spoken any better. On Facebook, Lynn Smith Peters wrote this about this article. This could happen again. Turn off the electronics and make your kids go outside. Side note to that, Elon Musk kids do not have phones at all. Just saying. If parents would stop hovering over their children, helicoptering and enabling, catering to their every want, not need, punish them for bad behavior, and stop making them fear everything in the outside world, kids would act and behave differently. So this was the solution she came up with. My neighborhood just hosted an event for kids. They did it for several days, and it was so well received. They had water balloon fights, played Red Rover, dodgeball, and many other outside games. It was awesome, and the kids had a blast with no electronics. We just need to get creative and find ways to make them want to go out and love life. We are the creators of our society, so we can always make changes. If you want your kids to live a more simple life, then show them how it's done. It's not in the words we speak, but the actions we take. My little side to that. We need to put down our electronics. Adults are sometimes worse than kids, and take our kids for hikes, walks, bike rides. You get the picture? Help them have some of our best memories and share those best memories. You can protect the child from everything but itself. Give them the right tools, however, and you shouldn't have to. Correct. And back when the good old days were the good old days, it starts with parenting. I teach my son and daughter this. It's so important. It is. It's so important that we learn to live and so on and so forth, that we experience things. I talked to my son today for a brief, about 30 minutes or so. I get to talk to him every couple of days. A highlight of my day. I just can't even begin to tell you how my life has changed. And I do mean it's changed for the better, I hope. But, I got to thinking as we were talking, I said to him, did you ride a bicycle with a helmet, knee pads, elbow pads? He said, no, Dad, I didn't. I said, really? He said, yeah. So I got to thinking, he lived probably the last bit of what I would call the best part of life to making memories. He remembers when the phone was up on the wall, it was attached with a cord. He does remember that. Doesn't, always had a remote, I'm sure, on his TV. That I'm pretty sure of. And I'm going to touch on that in still another piece. But right now, I'm going to bounce back to Donald Trump. I love Fox News. I will say, I really do. I enjoy watching Fox News. To all of you haters, sorry. I do get my input from other places as well. And after Greg Gutfeld at 10 o'clock at night, Trey, I think it's Trey, not Trey Gowdy, Trace Smith, I can't remember his name offhand. Gosh darn it. Listen to her. Gallagher is his name, Trace Gallagher. He did a 2-night piece, and it was on this: common wisdom elements. We speak about common sense. I speak about it all the time. I talk about critical thinking. You guys know how to critically think. But the common wisdom elements, resilience. Resilience is like Bozo the Clown blow-up doll when you were a kid. You punch it in the nose, it goes down to the ground, and it pops back up. Now, maybe that may not have been the kindest thing to use as a graphic. But seriously, when you think about someone who just had a bullet graze their head, hitting their ear, and for that man, at I think he's 78, to stand up, fist pump, I got to tell you, that's resilient. He's not going to give up. And, even here, he showed kindness. Kindness is something we all know what that means. We have to be a little bit more understanding and kind to people in general. Open the door, pull out a chair, take off a coat. Come on, young men, become better men. Open the doors for your girlfriends getting in and out of the vehicle. Oh, I'm sorry. Even if most of you don't have a license and you don't have the wherewithal to even own a car because your girlfriend has a car and you're too much of a dipstick not to have one, you can still get out and open her door when she goes to fill up the tank with gas. Yeah, you heard what I said. That's not kind. Those aren't even men. They're slugs. They're slugs. So, positivity. Positivity. Let me tell you something about positivity. Every morning you wake up, you should make your bed. At nighttime when you come home, it's freshly made. Nothing like a fresh bed to go into. That's a positive step forward throughout your day. But if you have positive thoughts, positive things happen to you. You will become like a magnet. It draws around you. And even the evil, vile people that are so wicked with so much hatred in their lives that dump it on you. Oh, I'm sorry. I had quite a few morons in this community that I live in do that to me because they're just ignorant. But the bottom line is I stayed positive. And you always have to stay positive, even in front of hate and evil. You have to. There's got to be some good that comes out of it. Who knows? Maybe it'll be the last breath that you see them take when they choke on their sandwich because, well, they're just that type of person. They got to gobble it up. I'm not going to give them a Heimlich. I will walk away from that one. True, I just said that. If I had an evil person that I know has so much hate that I know I do not like, do not care for, I would not go out of my way to help that person. Not at all. Chivalry isn't dead. It's just not taught. Men, teach your sons by example, not in your words. Our boys are watching us all the time. They're watching us all the time. Now, this is huge. Again, I didn't get to see the 4 definitions of the common wisdom elements, but spirituality. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I would love for you to examine yourselves. If you're a Christian, I want you to think about the 3 different books of the Bible, placing them in such an order as to which ones, have influenced your life the most. Believe it or not, for myself, I've always looked, and these are all together. I have it backwards. They're all together next to each other in the Bible. Proverbs for wisdom, prayer for the world and for myself, and prayers to God. And lastly, but not least, is time. Ecclesiastics, time. We're only on this earth for a very short while. This vessel of human flesh, bone, and blood that we have and organs and stuff, this is all going to go away. One day we will die. We must die. No one can live forever. So all you freaks out there, yes, I just called you freaks, that think drinking blood makes you a vampire or you're going to live a life forever as a vampire, so on and so forth, you're a little touched. And mommy and daddy haven't paid attention to you. The ones especially that have, and I say this to them, the ones that have the tattoos all over their face. I once was in Walmart, walked around a corner, saw this guy with all these tattoos all over his face, piercings here, had horns up here, nose, lips, everything. Pierced, gauged ears. I stopped dead in my tracks. He says, what are you looking at? I said, I believe a person that didn't get enough attention from mommy and daddy. He asked me the question. He didn't like my response. And of course, his response was the big read between the lines. And I looked at it, I said, no, don't go there. I go, you obviously want attention. I'm looking at your body art. And the next, we started, because I used the term body art, then it changed the whole dynamics of the conversation. Not that he was liking me anymore. Rest assured, we still walked away, never hoping to see one another again. But just the same, I gave him food for thought, and he gave me a lot to look at, to thought about, or think about. I like saying me thought or me thinks. But seriously, I would never do that to my face. I couldn't do it. And I'm not saying tattoos are bad. They're just not for me. But we all have to have guidance spiritually to do the things that we do. Obviously, with horns in his head, I would say be safe in saying it definitely wasn't anything that was godly, more demonic. And I'm just throwing it out there, being honest. You may not like what I'm saying, but what can I say? It's going to be out there. And I'm going to say what I want. Because number one, this is my program. But seriously, I want you folks to feel the same way, to be able to say what's on your mind when you feel like you have to say it. So when you look at humility, was number 5. And this is where, and this was on last night, and I was so glad to get these next 4 pictures. I am not, and I'm not going to pretend that I am, to be humble and modest. Actually, in some ways, I'm very modest. As far as being humble, that's something I've never been able to conquer. I'm not good with offering mercy. I'm not good with forgiveness. Some of those things, these 3 things in particular, are things I have to work on. I have to refine myself to make myself better. But really, the element of humility is to be humble and to be modest, to be gracious, to be grateful, which I can be with certain people. I can show that. But it's hard to do that sometimes. Next word, having sympathy for those around us and for others' beliefs or practices that differ from our own. This goes to number 6, tolerance. Okay? Having sympathy for those around us and for others' beliefs or practices that differ from our own. Now, when it comes to having different practices, sorry, I will never accept a Democrat. Oh, I can talk to them. I can say hello. I might even buy them a cup of coffee. I'm not going to embrace them because I know they've destroyed our country. They are ill-informed. They don't know. They are ignorant. And anyone that thinks that we need to continue down this path of communism, I'm going to tell you, we've lost our country, folks. That, of course, is my opinion. But really, tolerance. You've got to be patient sometimes. I have a friend of mine, he's 15 years. I've known this little guy, 55, 57 years old. AJ is. He's in a wheelchair. Been there all his life. Cerebral palsy. I asked him if he was still working. He said he finally retired. That man was in a wheelchair, crippled with cerebral palsy. Crippled. When he would clap during the ball game that we went to this past weekend, he could only use his hands in such a way, but he's showing his enthusiasm. When he had to use the restroom, I, of course, had to take him in there. That's part of taking care of someone. A lot of people would say, why? I do it out of love. I do it out of love for a man that loves life. Although he did open up to me. He said, Vincent, it's been a couple of years since we talked and I've changed. I've gotten a little darker, a little more bitter, not as happy. And I can understand that. But he never said it was because his life was in a wheelchair. I mean, that man traveled around the world, played croquet, played croquet, bowled. The man has been around South America, Europe, and involved in festivities of fun, of sports. And yet some people, I had a man that looked twice, by the way. Oh, he wasn't happy. He had to walk behind a man in a wheelchair that was only able to go so far. You could see this man had no patience. You could see he wasn't going to tolerate my little friend, AJ. But you know what? I looked at the guy and I gave him a smile. It was one of those faces like, go ahead, make my day. I'm not in a wheelchair. Be patient. This guy, come on. You can walk around. Come on. People don't want to do that. Some people want to be rude. Thank goodness no one was rude at the ball game. If anything, people were so helpful, assisting, understanding. Two kids came over and, kind of met him. Kids are so innocent. They don't know. They just know there's a person in a chair and his legs aren't good. And they're going to talk to him. They're not afraid. I told the one little girl, don't be afraid. It's okay. You can go over and say hi. That's what tolerance is. It's being able to accept people, even their differences. You've got to be able to do it. And then next, I look at this creativity. Creativity. What is that? It's the ability to think about problems differently or to look at scenarios from a new perspective. You've got to be able to readjust. You have to be able to adapt or readapt. Like I said earlier, for myself, I hope to become a little more humble. I hope to become a little bit more that I can give mercy to people. I call that a Libra. Yes, as a Libra, I usually say I'm autistic. I mean artistic, but seriously, creativity. You have to think outside the box. You can't just go with the social norm. There's nothing wrong with it, folks. You don't have to go through the social norm. And last but not least, curiosity. Common wisdom elements. Curiosity. A desire to learn and an interest in those around you. A desire to learn and an interest in those around you. Folks, it's okay to be curious. It's okay to question. There's nothing wrong with that. And you have to do this again, respectfully. Now, you may wonder why I have put these particular pieces up there, because in the segment last night, in the ending, after showing these, it went to a panel of guests. And they all agreed that Trump has certain ones of those qualities, or they know him that because they've worked with him. One person said he's a very tolerant man. Another person said you see his kindness when he goes into stores, when he buys ice cream and burgers for everyone. You see his creativity of being able to take a bad thing and spin it around. In other words, the Secret Service did not do their job. They failed our president, my president. And is there going to be another assassination attempt? I'm 99.9% sure there will be. I'm just going to pray to God that the DEI of the Secret Service gets past their own agenda. Yes, what you've just heard me say is it a possibility that this guy was known about all along and was part of the cog? I've got to tell you, it wouldn't surprise me one iota. One iota. It wouldn't surprise me at all. So, President Trump is probably the most resilient man. And he gave it to God in his spirituality when he said, I shouldn't be here. And he always talks so positive about what he wants to do for our country. And he is a very humble man, they say. The one thing that they never did mention was courage. The common wisdom elements should include courage. And why do I say that? Because it takes a very courageous person to stand up for what they believe in, to speak out for what they believe in, to do what they do because they know it is the right thing to do. I mentioned earlier, by the way, I just had 2 tons lifted off my shoulders. I have found an attorney that's going to represent me. Because you see, folks, in the court system, they all want you to plea bargain so they get some money, get something out of you. But when you're charged with a felony, like I was, sexual harassment to be exact, which, by the way, no victims, no words, no merit, no witnesses, nothing. An opinion of a deputy to usurp her authority under the colors of law, violating my civil rights under U.S. Code 18, sections 241, 242, 243. All because they didn't like the way I was telling the news. About, for instance, the TikTok video of Tanya O'Boyle at Cameron. It's on February 22nd show, by the way, with Heath Gilbert, part 4. I remember a lot of this stuff. And you know what? She is bribing children with candy to read pornography before they get banned and distribute it. These books are distributed at the public library, paid for by me and many other tax-paying citizens. They wanted to shut me up, shut me down. In fact, that felony would be 4 years behind bars. Folks, I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't cower. I had nothing to be found plea bargaining. It wasn't going to happen. But there's going to be 2 other civil suits as well. One's against an attorney that doxed me. Oh, he's a bad boy. And the other is against a newspaper, which shows my face and yet 5 other on the front page with a hit piece, and yet 5 other stories of criminals found guilty of sexual crimes. And Jimmy the Putz Potts, the editor at the time, did not put one person's picture to inform the society. This is a dangerous woman. This is a dangerous man. Keep your children clear from. And since they went after me the way they did unjustly, no warrants, nothing warranted that kind of action. It was only to shut me up. And folks, I'm not going to go down easy. I'm not going to go down easy. So I found still another piece, and I just got done writing this one out. This is going all the way back to the beginning when we were talking about how we grew up, how we rollerbladed, played in the woods, tripped over sticks, got poked in the eye, all that kind of stuff. This piece was really kind of special to me, though. They call us the elderly. We were born in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. We grew up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. We studied in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. We were dating in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. We got married and discovered the world in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. We ventured into the 80s and 90s. We stabilized in the 2000s. We got wiser in 2010, and we were going firmly through and beyond 2020. You guys are really going to like this. Turns out we've lived through 8 different decades, 2 different centuries, 2 different millennia. We have gone from the telephone with an operator for long distance calls to video calls to any one to any place in the world. We have gone from slides to YouTube, from vinyl records to online music, from handwritten letters to email and WhatsApps, from live matches on the radio, to black and white television, color TV, and then to 3D and HD TV. We went to the video store, and now we watch Netflix. We got to know the first computers, microfiche, punch cards, floppy disks, and now we have gigabytes and megabytes on our smartphones. We wore shorts throughout our, believe it or not. I got the news clipping from Facebook. Okay, I got to see what this one says. One moment, though. When Friends to Gallatin, this was one very unfortunate. When you go after others because of a gun for introducing adult material to minors, then turn around and introduce adult material to minors, it's a very sloppy form of hypocrisy. Admitted in his own words, did sexually harass minors, which considered okay because he's well liked in our community. I would hope that calls to the establishment owners are made by enough, if not by all members of our community, to ensure a court order is in place that this man cannot allegedly enter and allegedly pedophilically harass more teenage employees. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. The incident that the cop even talked about, the deputy, actually, there was an incident 4 months before. Think about it, folks. If there was an incident 4 months before, and I did something that was so heinous, no manager was told to talk to about it. No parents will talk to about it. No police will talk to about it. And the owner wasn't talked to about it. Folks, you can't make this shit up. And they use the same news article, which makes the admin of the page liable. Yeah, that's going to be another hit. I mean, folks, I have to go after them for millions and millions, and I intend to, of dollars. That's the only thing they know. Plus, I want to do more for people. As you know, you folks that have been watching me for all these years, and believe me, it's been almost 3 years now. I think I'm going on 4 years now. No, I would not sit here for 2 hours talking the way I do, walk out the door, be a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's just not me. I'm too psychologically sound as a strange person to ever become a stranger to people, if that makes sense. I hope it does. Anyway, getting back to this, we wore shorts throughout our childhood, and then long trousers, Oxfords, flares, shell suits, and blue jeans. We dodged infantile paralysis, meningitis, polio, tuberculosis, bird flu, swine flu, and now COVID-19. We rode skates, tricycles, bicycles, and mopeds with no helmets, no elbow or knee protection. We got scrapes and what were called grass burns or gravel burns, petrol or diesel cars, and now we drive hybrids or electrical cars. Hard to put out the fires on those electrical cars. Fire departments are finding that out nationwide. Bad for the environment. Junkyards are taking these cars and setting them aside saying, whoa, the battery corrosion is going down into the earth, causing problems in water, because eventually it trickles down into the water. And people in slave camps in Africa dying from the minerals that are so enriched in those mines that they're pulling out. Children, women, and men. To make our batteries, the cobalt batteries. Yes, we've been through a lot, but what a great life we have had, indeed. They could describe us as extennials, people who were born in that world of the 50s who had an analog childhood and a digital adulthood. we can definitely say that we've seen it all. Our generation has literally lived through and witnessed more than any other in every dimension of life. I don't care where you're at. Go back hundreds of years, try to make, there's no comparison. Fire, the wheel was about the biggest stuff. Then the Industrial Revolution. Anyway, it is our generation that has literally adapted to change. A big round of applause to all the members of a very special generation in which we will be considered unique. Folks, what do my little hobbies is running around? What do these younger kids right now that are teens up to 20, what do they have to look forward to? They're helicoptered by mommy and daddy, if they have a daddy. They're helicoptered. They're enabled. Everyone wants to be friends with their kids. No one wants to parent. Kids are afraid to walk across the street. They can't go anywhere without having their phone. They really have a very short attention span. And why do they have a short attention span? I'll tell you why. Because they only watch 30-second clips, 20-second clips on TikTok. 20-year-olds that aren't working, making money to buy their own car, pay for their own gas, pay for their own insurance, get their own apartment. Oh, I've heard all this stuff. It's much harder now, Vince. The economy's so bad, blah, blah. You know what? Economy's bad because you, as a Democratic parent, have failed. You failed your kids. I always like to try to, and I did, I wanted to show, and I do want to do this. It's going to take me a little time to get through this. But I'm about ready to show you, this is a tribute to my president. Everyone needs to watch this for a moment. I think you guys will definitely enjoy it. At least I hope you do. Come on now. Let me see if I can get up here quick enough. It's only for about a minute.
Just a good old boy.
Oh, there we go. Come on.
Never meaning no harm. Beats all you never saw. Been in trouble with the law since the day they was born. Straightening the curves, flattening the hills. Someday the mountain might get 'em, but the law never will. Making their way the only way they know how. That's just a little bit more than the law will allow. Just a good old boy. Wouldn't change if they could. Fighting the system like a true modern day Robin Hood.
I'm gonna let that one go because, folks, I still have 3 more I want to show you, and each one gets better than the last. So be patient with me. I want to share these with you because I think it's something that fits into what, well, if nothing else, what I'm trying to do here, which of course is, help people get along in life. Help them realize that we do have hope. We just have to do it together. And the only way we're going to do it together is if we really try our very best. If we do our best to come together. I think the Beatles said it very, very, very well. I'm having problems with my computer now, probably overloading it. But you want to know what a good man is? Dr. Peterson has this piece right now. It's only a little blip that I found, again, on a TikTok video. I must say, several people came to mind with me. Several people did. And I thought to myself, nope, this wasn't it. This isn't it. I hope it's not it. This isn't it. Okay. I'm going to try and get this on air if I can.
For in order to win is unbeatable.
Eventually, let this go through.
Remember this. A man who is ready to suffer in order to win is unbeatable.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Remember this. A man who is ready to suffer in order to win is unbeatable.
Did you get that, folks? That's true. If you just stand your ground, if you have faith in yourself, if you believe, and deep down inside you did nothing wrong, then be that person. Stand up for yourself. You can do this, folks. And I'm giving you my testimony. You can actually do this. Let's see which one this is. And of course, this will be probably the best for the last, of course. Yep, I'm gonna go with this anyway. Have to. I understand why your timing was perfect and why things had to happen exactly to protect you, to guide you, direct you to where you are always meant to be. Trust the process of your path. Evolution is all divine timing. And I do begin to tell you how much what this means. Because really, truly, I've been so blessed. I really have. And of course, my last one to you folks, I wish, and if Dave was in here, and I know Dave is busy working, blah, 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 blah. And my goodness, our hours are so backwards, it's not funny. But here we go. I'm going to try
man who's being good than he would be if he was just a good man who wasn't capable of being dangerous. And I believe that because the best men that I've ever met are very dangerous men. You don't mess with them. Maybe a man is better when he's a dangerous man who's being good than he would be if he was just a good man who wasn't capable of being dangerous. And I believe that because the best men that I've ever met are very dangerous men. You don't mess with them. Maybe a man is better when he's a dangerous man who's being good than he would be if he was just a good man who wasn't capable of being dangerous. And I believe that because the best men that I've ever met are very dangerous men. You don't mess with them. Maybe.
That's the whole thing. I know men exactly that he's speaking like. They're dangerous men. They have it under control. I'm a dangerous man, but I have it under control. And that control is through our good nature. We go through things sometimes, folks, others can't handle. They don't want to handle. Why? Real simple. They can't handle facts. They can't handle truths. They don't understand that sometimes we can't always be winners. We can't always have that blue ribbon, the biggest trophy, the biggest plaque. I have found in my life, in my lifetime, and I'm reflecting on this past weekend with my little buddy AJ, I have found, and I said this to him, AJ, this is like the third or fourth baseball game I've gone to in my whole life. I don't like baseball. I don't watch baseball. But the best part about that game was picking him up, getting him in his van, driving him to that game, having that conversation, watching that game, seeing his elated joy, his happiness, and then to take him back home. That was probably the hardest part of that whole evening. because I knew that we were going to have to part. I knew that he was going to have to go back into his living where he's at and be taken care of by people. And, he's struggling. His mom and dad are up there in age. They had to find another place for him for the moment. And, he's a bigger, better person than me many times. He's proven that to me many times. I don't hate him. I don't dislike him. I don't feel threatened by him. I know he could never be a danger to anyone, except maybe stealing your heart. Yeah, he'll steal your heart, but he's a good man. And the people that are in our community here in Cameron, in Gallatin, there's maybe a handful that I can honestly say, I mean that, a handful of men that I know that are good men. And yet every one of them, I'm quite confident of it, is as dangerous as they could be when they have to be. So look out, Cameron. I'm telling you right now, and Davies County, Clinton County, telling you, I'm going to take you down. I'm going to do everything to take you down because you guys deserve every bit of pain in your pockets and in your wallets that I could give you. And I pray to God, I'm given a position to do the things I want to for people who are so needy. That's why we are here on a Common Denominator Network. We're teaming up with Canada. I have a very good friend of mine, Ben Friedman, who was on last week. And believe it or not, we're going to create what's called the American Public Trust Association. Let me see if I can get my face out of here for what exactly is that? Well, that's where we are going to help people advocate for people who maybe have mental illness, who have handicaps, physically or mental, that don't have the financial resources to help them through issues and problems through the court structure and make sure the courts and the prosecuting attorney, and they're even right down to their own attorney, is not taking advantage of them. Someone has to take that guard. And it's about time that we have advocates for every single person, if they request one, in that courtroom to help them get through the proceedings. Got to tell you, folks, I can't make this shit up when it comes to myself. I can't. The ignorance, the stupidity, the jealousy, the hatred. It's wicked, wicked, wicked. I'm a lover. And I'm also a fighter. Two things I love. Both begin with the letter F. Fighting is one. I'll let you guys figure out the other one. But truth be told, you've got to realize the things you say about people without any facts, truths, is going to bite you. And it's going to bite you hard. I'm going to close with this last piece here, folks. I've often thought about death, and I think right now I'm 63. I'm pretty much going out of the world. As I opened up with, we all are going to die earlier in the program. This is called When I Go. When I go, don't learn to live without me. Just learn to live with my love in a different way. And if you need to see me, close your eyes or look in your shadow when the sun shines. I'm there. Sit with me in the quiet, and you will know that I did not leave. There is no leaving when one soul is blended with another. When I go, don't learn to live without me. Just learn to look for me in the moments. I thought that was a very beautiful piece. I've often said, when I die, I hope there'll be a lot of laughter. I don't want tears. I want people to say, gosh, he did this, he did that, had a fun time, experienced life, had a great, great time in life all in all. Very few, if any, regrets. Very few, if any, regrets. You know, folks, we only go around this little merry-go-round once. That's it. It's up to you to decide how you want to live, how you want to be remembered. I'm going to do everything I can. As I get older, I don't know, call me silly putty, but I've toned down a lot of things. I don't go out dancing and drinking like I used to. I don't go out visiting my friends like I used to. Of course, a lot of my friends aren't from this area to begin with. They live miles, in a lot of cases, states away. But it's the memories. I think back on my friends and I can't help but smile. Some of them, thank goodness, are still living. But the ones that have passed, the lessons they taught me, their character, which should be respected. These are things I've always strived for. And more than anything, I pray to for each and every one of you that are watching this, that will watch this in the future, what have you, that you find those things as well. Because if you have good health, you have good time. If you're having a good time, you're happy. Folks, happiness comes from within you. Don't expect happiness to come from outside of the four walls that you're in. It can. V, I'm going to call you up to sue me. I've got I can't make this up story. And it beats anything from, oh, no way. Oh, no way. Well, thank you, Ruth. That, of course, came from my friend Heath. But again, he caught me off guard. He always does. And I love Heath. He's one of those, by the way, dangerously good men. One of many that I'm surrounded by. If you can say you're bad, and then, hey, by the way, white dudes for Kamala with all your emotional crying crap. Oh, I can't believe they actually turned that into a racial thing. White dudes for Kamala. So now the Democratic Party actually says there are white men. That's a big change. I wonder if they know what a man actually is. But seriously speaking, 4 of the 47 original people working with Kamala Harris left her office, resigning or quitting. Only 4 out of 47. She's had 92% turnover under her administration. Let that sink in. Is it sinking? Now, what happens if our military turns around and says, Kamala, we're all quitting on you? Think about that one, folks. Think about that one. The Olympics just turned around. I forgot about this. I wanted to talk about this. What does your sexuality have to do with the Olympics? Bruce Jenner transformed 3, 4, 5 decades later after he set all kinds of world records. But what does you being gay have to do with the Olympics? I'll tell you, folks, they deserve to be at the Olympics. No, they've got 2 men that are identified as women that are going to be boxing women. By the way, think about this. You play tennis, you play badminton, you play golf, you play bowling, so on and so forth. Boxing is not playing. Boxing is to the ground. You're out. A man's punch is 162% more than a woman's punch. We've already had that one MMA fighter, man, dressing up as a girl, a little fruitcake that it is, little pansy ass that it is, turns around and punches a woman so hard, destroys the whole left side of her face. She can no longer fight. So you morons that think the Last Supper with a big, fat, rotund, obese pig of a woman that sits in Jesus's seat and then has all the gay disciples around her. And then they want to say, well, it was about Dionysus. Okay, so you throw the little blue tuna fish, man spread in the middle of a table, which was grotesque. And France allowed this to happen? Is France really a friend of the world? Personally, I thought about going to France at one time. Never will I ever want to go now. I think this was abhorrent. It was absolutely abhorrent. This should never have happened. Gay sexuality doesn't matter. Homosexuality, straight sexuality has nothing to do with sports. You go there, man competes against man. Woman competes against woman. And you tranny little queer gay guys should all be playing with each other in a trans Olympics. It's not that hard, America. Wake up. Stop having these men compete against our girls. Let's stop having these men beat up, injure, and maim some of these women. We got to stop the lunacy. Have to stop it somewhere. By the way, don't watch the Olympics. Boycott the Olympics. Hit them where it hurts the most. Deep in their pockets. And like I said, Clinton County / Davies, I'm coming for your pockets. And I don't intend to stop. I won't be stopped. But you will. In the meantime, thank you everyone for joining me. God bless you all. Have a great, great day. Great week coming up. If you know any Democrats and you think you can switch them over and make them feel a little bit, say, happy, happy, joy, joy. Yes, this is very disgusting that they are allowing men to compete against women. And is it France that's allowing this or the Olympics? France is a mess, yet this may not be their doing. I'll tell you what, seriously speaking, Heath, I must say, France could have said to the Olympics, no go on the gayo. No go on the homo. That's it. That's all they had to say. It's not part of sports. People's lifestyles are not a part of sports. That's all I can say about that. Love you too, Sherry. God bless you, girl. Thank you very much again for hanging in there. Couldn't help it. Had to get a little bit more squeezed in. Got that little bit of time, made me feel good. Gave me warm, fuzzy feelings. So, folks, just know that I do this because I need to vent. I do this because I want to. And more importantly, at this point, hopefully it'll be something my son and my grandbabies may one day look back on and say, he was a weird duck, but he was our weird grandfather duck. Take care. Love you all. Peace.